It's time for Insurance Unlocked with your host, Heather Arias from Udy & Associates American Family Insurance. Heather will be sharing her proven insurance tips to help you save money.
Hey, Heather, how's it going today?
Good. How are you, Michael?
I'm doing excellent. It is
Good.
so nice to have you back.
Oh, thank you. I'm happy to be back.
You know, on our last podcast about auto insurance, we had so many people call in and say how much they really enjoyed it. But I know that you had one thing you wanted to make just a slight correction in that.
Oh, yes. On the last podcast, I had mentioned that the new Utah state minimum liability limits were $35.65. They're actually $30.65. So $30,000 per person, $65,000 per accident.
Got it. Okay.
Just wanted to update that.
Thanks for the update.
Yes.
We all appreciate it. So today, I know that we want to talk about some common misconceptions
Yes.
about home insurance.
Yes.
I didn't know that there were any, but evidently there are.
There are.
Because I thought that homeowners insurance covers absolutely everything in my home. I mean, absolutely everything. Even collector items, like this shirt, a highly collectible shirt, it'd be covered if it got burned.
Yeah. Well, home insurance covers a lot in your home, but there are some things that it does not cover. There are collectibles, guns. Now, a lot of times home policies will have built-in limits that cover up to a certain amount of these things. But, you know, guns can be more than a couple $100.
Yes.
And so, we'll talk about guns then. They can be more than a couple $100. So there are special limits that you can add to your policy to insure them for their full value. Jewelry, you know, wedding rings can be more than a couple $100.
Yeah.
You know, some of these women have these huge rocks on their fingers. You're going to want to put that on your policy. You want to get it appraised and have it insured correctly.
Yeah, I will stress the importance of doing that because I have a lot of guitars at my
Exactly.
house. And
Musical instruments.
I had to get a special insurance rider. Is that
Yes,
the proper term?
that's right.
For all of my guitars. And what was scary is that the value of the guitars was almost as much as the house.
Oh, my gosh.
So the
How
guy
many
goes,
guitars do you have?
I don't know, 50 or 60.
Oh, my heavens. Do you have a favorite?
Well, I do.
But I won't say it on here.
Well, yeah, because a lot of them I kind of make myself. But I love Strat style
Okay,
guitars.
cool.
I just love those. And then I have all the amps to go with them.
Cool.
So our insurance guy goes, you know, Michael, you should probably do something about this
Yeah.
because if something happens to these
They
guitars,
got stolen or burnt up in a fire. That'd
Yeah.
be terrible.
yeah. I was living in Southern California at the time, and as you know, they never have any fires down there.
Never. Never heard of one.
No, it's because they passed a law. This is a fire-free zone.
Yes, they did.
Fires are
Smokey
not
the Bear did.
Fires are not allowed here. So yeah, I know that it's important to get those riders on.
Yes, it is.
On things like that. I had another friend he was an avid he was a coin collector.
Okay.
And he had to get his coins insured, even though they were like
Yeah.
in a safe, because I guess the safe had temperature limits.
Mm-hmm.
And he had some things that were in the safe, and they actually like melted. It got really hot, and so it's
That
like
could definitely happen.
Yeah.
Coins, art, tapestries, all of those can be put on a policy.
Is there anything in my home or in anybody's homes that would not be or could not be covered with a rider? Is there anything, or is anything I have, any personal property I have that is not covered in my home insurance policy? Is there
That's a good
anything that
question.
would not be covered? Like art or,
No,
No?
it would just depend. A lot of things require an appraisal
okay.
to insure them. I mean, people have pets in their home. They're not usually covered on a home policy, but there are riders you can add to even insure your pets
Yeah.
in passing. So
This one guy was really smart. I guess he had a fire or something before, and he couldn't get the value of all of his personal property in the home because it was not properly documented.
oh, that's very important.
So he actually hired a guy to videotape all of the personal property in his home, and he talked about it. This is what it is, and everything was on the videotape. And if there was a problem, he just gave that videotape to the insurance guy. And he was very appreciative of that because very few people document all these things.
You know, most people don't, and they should. They should take time to go around their house and take pictures. I knew of a guy who had a very expensive mountain bike stolen. And He had it on his policy, but they wanted proof that he owned that bike. And they had no pictures of it, no documentation from when he purchased it, but he had a picture when he was out hiking, of all things.
Yeah.
And he had a picture of the bike, and they were able to be like, okay, we see that you own that. We'll get you the money back for it. So photos, writing things down, receipts, it's important to save all that.
Yeah, I think that's probably one of the best tips.
Video would be even better.
The video really worked well.
Yeah.
I have an antique violin that my grandfather passed down to the families, and when we documented that, we literally took photos and video inside the F holes. It's got the maker's mark, and everything was signed in there to prove that exactly what it was, that it wasn't a knockoff.
That was smart.
So I think documentation is the key, because
absolutely.
Insurance, just because I have home insurance, a lot of people think, oh, if everything is covered, I'm perfectly fine. And that's not true. I think some of the things that we think is covered, but it's not, is like flood insurance. Well, I have fire insurance.
Yeah.
So I automatically have flood insurance.
So flood insurance, earthquake, all of that is usually done separately. Now, a lot of home policies, you can add an additional rider or an endorsement, we call it, to the policy to cover earthquake. Flood is not. It is done separately, usually by the National Flood Insurance Program. You would insure it through there, and they'll take into consideration your flood zone, the size of your house, how much of the contents you want covered, and you can get a separate policy that way. But flood is usually not covered on a home policy.
So I've heard that in Utah, they're actually changing the locations of what is and what is not a flood zone. Is that true? Do you know anything about that? Do flood zones change from time to time?
Yeah, they'll do flood mapping, and they'll take into consideration a lot of different things. I know I've done some research, and they'll look at like the 100-year flood plain and all kinds of different things to take it into consideration. Figure the higher up, less likely you're going to have a flood, but flood can happen to anybody.
So let's say that I bought homeowners insurance. I've been living there for a couple of years. And I, being a smart and wise homeowner, I've scheduled my annual appointment with my favorite insurance person, Heather.
Me.
And yeah, that's who it is. And let's say you're talking to me, and let's say I've never had flood insurance, and you checking me, go, oh my gosh, Michael, they just changed the flood maps. You're now in a flood zone. Is that something that could actually happen?
Oh, absolutely. They can change the flood maps. They can look at the history and go in and change those. You could be in a preferred flood zone, and then maybe that area starts to get more flooding over time. They can go in and remap it. They do map revisions.
And they probably don't tell anybody. It's just that if your house floods, oh, sorry, we don't cover that.
Yeah, I don't know if they send out a notice or not, but I could see it not being something that's like publicized.
Yeah, so that's why it's a wise and prudent decision for me or any homeowner to actually go in and talk with your insurance professional.
Absolutely.
Make sure if there's any updates, like, oh, by the way, you're now in a flood zone.
Yeah, it goes back to doing those annual reviews.
Yeah.
With your insurance agent. Get in there, have them look at your policy, look at things that have changed in your life. Maybe look at flood insurance, look at earthquake insurance. Sometimes it's not very expensive. I've seen flood policies as cheap as $300 or $400 a year, depending on the flood zone and what's covered. Same with earthquake. Earthquake doesn't have to be expensive always. So,
yeah, I know I came from in Southern California a couple of years ago, and since we never had earthquecks there, we never really had.
Oh, you didn't have fires or earthquakes down there?
There were no fires or earthquakes in California, so just kind of let that one slide.
Yeah, exactly.
And we did okay, and that was the reason why I thought to myself, I probably really don't need to insure my home for its full value because nothing ever happens.
Well,
I think hear that a lot.
Oh yeah, I think people get confused in market value versus replacement cost. So you don't want to necessarily insure your home for market value. It could be underinsured. You want to insure it for replacement costs. Replacement cost takes into consideration any changes in building supplies, construction materials, labor, what it may have cost to build a house 5 years ago.
Yeah,
it could be more now. So your house, to replace it, needs to be insured for more because it costs more to rebuild that home.
That's really, it's kind of a terrifying thought. We've all seen on the news the past, couple months or so, those poor folks down in Southern California whose
it's so sad.
Homes were completely obliterated by fire. And a number of them didn't have like replacement costs. They just, I saw one guy in the news. So he actually inherited his home from his parents. He's lived there for like 30 years and thought he had everything covered, but never got the replacement cost. And he's just out.
He's out money.
He's done. And he said, I don't have enough money to actually rebuild my own home.
Did he have any insurance on the home at all?
He had insurance, but it was one, I think, that his parents put on like 30 years ago when they first built the house. So he was drastically underinsured.
Yeah.
And I think there were a lot of people like that.
Well, especially in California, I think 30 years ago what it was to build a house versus now.
Oh, yeah.
It'd be a massive difference.
Yeah, especially in the Pacific Palisades. Those are multi-million-dollar homes. And you've got to have a replacement cost down there. Even here in Utah, the prices have, I don't want to say skyrocketed, but they have definitely increased even the past 3-4 years.
We built our house in 2020, and it's doubled if we wanted to rebuild it now. It's crazy.
So you've got to get replacement costs.
Yeah. And I have to adjust it. What I insured my house for in 2020 when we built it, I've had to over time increase because for us to rebuild that home, it's going to cost a lot more.
Wow. Well, that just makes sense. Oh, wait a minute. Nothing bad ever happens to me, so I really don't need
nothing ever bad will happen.
Nothing bad will ever happen. Don't worry about it. It's fine. I know we have a lot of folks who are renters, not homeowners as of yet. And I think they think that renters insurance and homeowners insurance are exactly the same, which I think is a common misconception, isn't it?
It is a common one. So renters insurance and homeowners insurance are definitely different. A renter, essentially, you just need to insure your personal property and some liability for yourself. Figure the person that owns the home should have home insurance on it as a landlord. So you don't need to insure the structure of that home. You need to take care of your own stuff, your personal property, and liability if something were to happen. Homeowners insurance, you want to make sure your full structure's covered. Not only that personal property, liability, all of those things need to be covered under a homeowner's policy.
Yeah. So I remember when we first moved up here, we were renting and got the renter's insurance policy. And, I have a lot of guitars, and so we had to also insure those as part of the rental.
And you can do that.
Property. And the insurance guy goes, "What?" And he goes, "That's a lot of guitars. What are you doing with those things?" Yeah. So all those things we put under our renter's
and you can put those
policy.
riders on there and schedule those. We call it scheduling those items.
Yeah. The rest of it, the property owner, they're responsible for the structure or anything.
The
like
structure,
that.
absolutely, yes.
So is there anything that, let's say that I, as a renter, I get that maybe, I know it's hard to believe, but some renters maybe get lazy and just think, oh, it's no big deal. Let's say they don't have renter's insurance, the place burns down. Is there anything, since the landlord or the property owner has to have insurance, is there any part of his insurance that might cover something that the renter had that wasn't covered by a specific renter's policy?
More likely, no.
Okay.
Most likely, no. The landlord's not responsible for the renter's personal property. So that's the majority of the policy on a renter's insurance. So if that place were to burn down, the renter's out of luck, essentially.
Yeah.
So
that's tragic. I know
it is.
I've seen a lot of people, number one, they don't even get a renter's policy, and something tragic happens and they're out. And they just think, oh, well, I rent, and so this guy's responsible for it. It's like, no, I don't think so.
No, he just needs to insure his home that he owns.
Yeah.
And he'll have his own liability. A landlord policy for the landlord would have their own liability and stuff like that. But as a renter, your personal property you need to make sure is insured.
So as a homeowner, do you ever find that homeowners think that I bought my home, I got my homeowner's policy, but I'm locked into just this one policy, and they just think that they're stuck there?
Some people do believe that. That's another misconception. At any time you can shop. A lot of people get worried to shop their insurance, especially if they have a mortgage, because it's all set up, it's ready to go. They just don't want the hassle. But sometimes when you do look around at other insurance companies, you can get better coverage for a lower rate. And it's really easy to get it set up with the mortgage company. We can get you quoted, get it sent off to the mortgage company, get new payments set out. We could work it out with the escrow. It's great.
Okay.
And it's not hard. It's easy.
You know, in our last show, we talked about auto insurance. So I'm going to see if these two things are correlated. So if I'm a homeowner and I've got my homeowner's policy, will that help me get a better rate on my auto insurance?
Oh, absolutely.
How does that work?
It goes back to that bundling. The more lines that you bundle, the more you'll save on your insurance. So if you have a home policy and you want to bring your autos over, or you're just looking for a home quote, let's quote your autos too. It'll save you money on the home, and it'll save money on your auto insurance.
So what else can I do to save money on my total insurance, I won't say bill, but what you're saying is the more things that I bundle in there, the lower overall fees I'm going to have to pay. So I could bundle my home,
your auto, motorcycles, boats, umbrella. An umbrella is another big one. A lot of times people do not have enough liability on their insurance. An umbrella, it comes in, and if you max out, like on a home, you max out the liability limit. Someone comes in your home, gets injured, goes to the hospital, you blow through all that liability. The umbrella is there to help extend that. It starts at $1 million. It can go up from there, and it just provides you extra protection. Gives you a discount as well.
So the umbrella policy, does that include like life insurance or anything like that?
Umbrella, no. So life insurance would be separate. An umbrella basically covers and extends the liability limits on your auto, your home, motorcycles, boats, things like that.
So let's say I've got all those things. I got the umbrella thing, but I say, I'm still looking for ways to reduce my overall insurance costs. And I'm going to say, hey, Heather, if I was to switch my life insurance policy over to you, would that actually help lower my overall insurance costs because we're bundling everything?
Life insurance, one of the most important, if not the most important policy you can have in insurance is life, gives you a discount as well on your auto, your home, all of those.
So the best way to save money on insurance is to bundle as many things as you possibly can.
Put it all in one place.
Put it in one place, not little here and a little there.
No, you put it in one place and you have one person you're working with. They get to know you. They get to know your life. They can take care of you and make sure there's no gaps in your coverage.
I like that.
It's great. Yeah.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Any other hot tips you've got for us to save money on our homeowners insurance?
On homeowners insurance? No, going back to when we talked about notating what you have in your home. This won't necessarily save you money, but it'll help you in the long run. Take pictures, write down what you have, meet with your agent every year. There are discounts out there you may not even know about. I know we talked about this in the auto insurance segment, but you meet with your agent, preferably and hopefully you have someone you can go to and meet with face-to-face. They can go through your policy, look to see if there's something you need, look to see if there's extra discounts available, and they can help save you some money.
So some good takeaways from this episode are, number one, meet with your agent at least once a year.
At least once a year, annually.
Try to bundle as many things together as you possibly can to get the discount. And then make sure that all of your personal items are properly documented, either with a video or photo, or at least write them down. I know when we did ours, we literally wrote down the serial numbers on our television and our computers.
That's better, even better. The more information you have, the better.
Yeah, that works.
It helps
great.
the claim go smoother and faster too.
Terrific.
Yeah.
Well, Heather, you've just been a joy and delight today.
You.
How can people get a hold of you if they'd like to ask you some more questions?
Yeah, you can call our office at 435-251-9102. We do have a website, Udy and Associates. I'll spell it for you, UDYANDASSOCIATES.com. We have Facebook, Instagram. You can instant message us on all of those platforms as well.
Sounds great. Well, we look forward to seeing you guys again next time. Heather and I will be here with another exciting insurance adventure on Insurance Unlocked with Heather.
Thanks, Michael.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Insurance Unlocked, hosted by Heather Arias from Udy & Associates American Family Insurance in St. George, Utah. For more information or a free consultation, call 435-251-9102.